a few very powerful sessions with my clients recently, and many of them were about dealing with childhood trauma. And during those sessions, I was using the information that I already had, all the spiritual wisdom, knowledge, information that I have from everything I have learned. But as I was speaking to some of them, I started getting downloads, and I knew that some of this information was even new to me. So a lot of people struggle with toxic relationships within families, parents, still trying to heal from childhood trauma. And as we go into spirituality, we realize that it's part of our spiritual journey, spiritual growth, to release and somehow deal with this situation, because otherwise it's becomes a massive burden on our life and can even contribute to illness and just makes our life more difficult. So the main things that I got is, when you are in a situation where you are still trying to forgive your parents, or you are in no contact with your parents, but you're still feeling guilty about it, you are actually still playing the game of victimhood. Even if you have no contact with your parents, but you still feel guilty and you feel pain about the whole situation. In a way, in a sense, energetically, spiritually, emotionally, you are still playing this game, the game of toxic family situation, the game of childhood trauma. And the only way to liberate yourself from this and really release all the pain and grief and sadness linked to this situation is to understand that by allowing yourself to leave the victimhood and with pure heart releasing all this pain and blessing the whole situation with love and understanding and raising your consciousness and looking at the whole situation from a higher level of awareness, that's the only way you can, in a really positive and constructive way, contribute to your own liberation, the liberation of your whole family, your whole lineage, and also becoming an example for others, a light for others, that this is how this needs to be done. Because if we are still suffering, even though we think we have somehow resolved the situation within us, but deep inside we are still suffering and feel guilty about, for example, not being in touch with our family, because obviously the social construct is all about you should look after your parents and you should be there for them, and we end up being in this internal conflict. On one hand, I know it's not good for me. On the other hand, I feel bad about not being there for them. Realize that the best thing you can do on all levels, personal, on the family level and collective level, is to really liberate yourself from this guilt and forgive. Because really what there is to forgive is understanding that the parents did their best, knowing that they didn't have any other tools to help themselves with whatever behaviors they were presenting. This was everything they learned from their own homes. And only recently, the past few decades, the awareness on the planet has shifted to the point where these things are being highlighted, and there is so much focus on mental health and resolving all those situations to do with family, and people are healing childhood trauma on a large scale. So what I'm trying to say is the best thing you can do for yourself and for your parents and for the whole lineage in your family to heal all of this and to break this cycle is to free yourself, not only physically by detaching yourself from the family, but also not feeling guilty about it, because if you do, you are still at some level a victim of the situation. And the only way to really become successful at resolving this situation is leaving the guilt behind and understanding that by feeling guilty you are still a victim of this, and a victim is not a winner. In order to become a winner in this situation, and that's what we are aiming for, because we're not supposed to, through those experiences, just remain victims of it. The only way for us to really show everybody around that the best way to resolve those situations is by really shifting your consciousness and understanding that the best thing I can do in this situation actually is what seems unacceptable by the society, but that's the best thing we can do on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, is to really let go. Forgive, let go, understand. Forgive with the level of understanding that it wasn't really anybody's fault, whatever happened. It was just the level of consciousness that our parents were at, and that we have the chance to break the cycle. And if we were to look at it from a soul's perspective, or just really broad spiritual perspective, if you were to look at this, that you have the chance, by embarking on the spiritual journey, you have the chance finally to free your family from this ongoing vicious circle that possibly has been running for decades or centuries. So really, by you detaching yourself and letting go and forgiving and just raising above it, you are saving the whole lineage. You are clearing this whole darkness that has been running in your family. Probably just you've been possibly playing those roles in different reincarnations as different members of the family, trying to resolve certain issues, and yet there was no resolution. And now when you finally get to this point where you are so close, you become more aware, you become more spiritual, and you understand things in a larger context. The only last thing you need to do is give yourself permission to really free yourself from any sort of guilt or pain related to that situation. Because if we are still feeling guilty, we are still at the table. And this was exactly the message that I got when I was doing a session with one of my clients. These were the exact words, leave the table, because otherwise you are still playing this game. Even emotionally, if you are still attached to feeling guilty, you are still playing the game of toxicity and victimhood. So leave the table with understanding that that's the best thing you can do for yourself, for your family. Because if you were to look at it, like if you went back, you cross over, and all of you cross over, and you look back at everything you have achieved in this lifetime, you would congratulate yourself on taking this brave decision of really letting go, because and everybody would be happy about it, because it would be like, oh, finally we are free from that. Finally somebody was brave enough to break this cycle. Finally we don't have to repeat it on and on again. And it's like the whole lineage is all the ancestors, and they will be like so proud of you. So find this courage within yourself and really break this cycle, because it's so worth it. You will not need to repeat this situation ever again, and you will free your children, your grandchildren, or any other members of your family from this in the future. And really the best thing that you can do is not only detach and release, but also obviously making sure that having learned on the lesson, on the painful lesson of childhood trauma or abuse, you are creating a safe and beautiful home, completely different home for yourself, for your family, for your children. And that's the best way we can deal with situations like that, not by becoming victims, not by suffering for the rest of our lives. Especially that childhood trauma can cause a lot of physical pain, physical illness. So really by freeing yourself from this, you can have this massive breakthrough in your healing, mentally, physically, and you will feel just relieved from all of that. So like I said, leave the table with pure heart, with understanding that this is the best thing you can do. If there is still any sort of stuck trauma from the childhood, try to work with any sort of techniques, meditation, breath work to release it. Forgive and let go with the understanding that it was all part of human evolution. It was all part of the collective lesson that we had to take part in. Not everyone did, because some generations, some families did it earlier. But those who did have this sort of experience in this lifetime, it's a perfect opportunity for you to really embrace your spirituality and raise your consciousness, because that's the only way we can resolve a situation, by looking at it from a larger perspective, from a spiritual perspective. Because if we were just to observe it from this earthly perspective, it's never going to make sense. It's always going to leave us with the feeling of, why did it happen to me, or will just leave us numb. And that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of awakening and spiritual growth is about understanding that I can actually be one of those who found the strength in the heart to break this cycle and not become the victim, and just really change the course of action and story for the future for this family. So yeah, once we see it this way, it becomes so much easier. It's no longer being the black sheep in the family for whatever reason. It's raising above all of this and understanding that that's the best thing I can do. We cannot heal toxicity or pain with feeling more pain, but we can heal it with love and forgiveness. And this is what I recommend all of you to do, with no hesitation. Just let it go. Free yourself from this guilt, free yourself from this pain, because like I said, it's the best thing you can do for yourself, for everybody involved. I hope this makes sense.